Do you ever just stop in the middle of your day and think, how are we all functioning right now? I mean, aside from the fact that we're living in a world that seems to become more unhinged by the second, how are we all doing this? How are we all living life? Because I don't know, but for me, I feel like everybody got this manual or how to book on life. And somehow people just seem to know what they're doing. They know how to handle situations, how to make decisions, how to navigate life better. And I miss that day. I'm Liz Riley, and this is Let's See How It Goes, a podcast about navigating and living life as it's actually happening. Not fixing it, not pretending everything's all good, because it's not, just noticing it, noticing what's good, what's bad, what's hard, what's happy, what's sad, what's funny, what's ridiculous, what works and what doesn't. Just living life as it's actually happening. And because the truth is that life is happening whether we're ready for it or not. And I feel like most of the time I'm just figuring things out on the fly, just seeing how it goes. But to explain why this podcast exists, I think I have to go back to where it all came from, how it all started. Because this whole idea came from a moment where I realized something pretty simple, but kind of important, at least to me. A few years ago, I was in one of the darkest seasons of my life where a lot of bad things were happening around me that were out of my control. And I was paralyzed, consumed, and stuck. And I wanted things to change. I wanted my life to change. I wanted to feel different, but everything felt way too big to fix. Like, I mean, so many things were out of my control. So what could I do? But I had this moment of clarity, kind of, where I realized something really uncomfortable, but true. Yes, all these things were happening around me that were out of my control. But the way that I was allowing it to consume me, to consume my thoughts and my everyday life, was making it so much worse. I was spiraling. I was ruminating. I was festering. I was living in this negative mindset. And I couldn't get out of it. Like I said, I was paralyzed. But at the time, I was in such a bad place. I was like, well, what can I do? There's nothing I can really do to get me out of this. I mean, trust me, I was in a dark spot, but I knew well enough that if it continued on this path, the horizon was a pretty dangerous place and I did not want to go there. So I did something. I had to do something small and manageable. And I said, all right, every time that you go down this negative spiral, this negative inner monologue, festering, you have to stop and say 3 positive things. Now, when I say stop, I mean, I actually said out loud, stop. And then I'd say the 3 positive things out loud. They didn't have to be huge and monumental. They didn't have to be existential, like the grass is always greener. Oh, it could be so much worse. It just had to be positive. They had to be different every time. And they had to just be something that didn't suck, that I could actually see some sort of positive glimmer in. And like I said, in the mindset that I was in, I had very little faith that this would work because, I mean, everything sucked at the time. But whatever. I just said, all right, let's see how this goes. And to my surprise, it actually changed a lot. It helped. No, it didn't make my life all of a sudden better. There were no clouds or butterflies, rainbows, unicorns, whatever. It didn't stop all the bad things from happening because let me tell you, they were still happening. But what it did was it got me out of this negative mindset, the spiral that I was going down every time, which I realized was probably the biggest hurdle and the darkest spot of what I was in. And so at that moment, I realized something, that most of life isn't about fixing things. It's not about fixing life. It's not about, because you can't really fix life. Life is life. It's just happening. We're just living it, navigating it, trying to get through it the best that we can, trying things here and there to see if it makes things better or easier or whatever it is. And sometimes they work. Sometimes they don't. But either way, we still go through it, right? We just have to keep going. And that's what I did. And that's what most of us are just doing. To be clear, this is not a self-help podcast. I'm not an expert. I definitely don't have answers. And I am not in a place to give answers because I'm figuring it out just like you. I'm just someone living life like everyone else, trying things, trying to do the best I can, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and just living life. And that's what this podcast basically is. It's me living this life out loud with humor, honesty, and zero pretending. I have a friend who says this thing that makes me laugh every time she says it because it's really true and very applicable. She says, Liz, life is lifing. And life is sometimes lifing hard. And those are the exact moments that this podcast lives in. Those everyday moments where life is lifing. And sometimes it's lifing hard. Episodes will be about things like friendships as adults, parenting moments. I have a 4.5-year-old. There's a lot of them. Routines, habits, social situations, family dynamics, money, all the things, the daily tasks that we all have to do. Like my favorite thing ever, figuring out what we're having for dinner for the rest of our lives. Just the stuff that makes up everyday life. But truthfully, the point isn't the topic, it's the process. Sometimes an episode might start with something that's going on in my life that I'm actually dealing with, where I genuinely stop and say, okay, so what am I supposed to do here? Or sometimes it'll be about something that I try in those moments or just in general to see if they help or do what they're supposed to do. Maybe it's something that I heard from someone who actually knows something about something professionally, like a podcaster or a psychologist or an expert who has found the solution to life. Or maybe it's some random internet hack that I saw that looked interesting. Or maybe, God help us all, something I came up with on my own. Either way, we'll see if it works. And if it doesn't, I will let you know for sure. But honestly, sometimes there isn't some big solution, clean solution to life or to whatever's happening. Sometimes life is just lifing. So other episodes might start with something that I see, something about the way people behave, something that's happening in the world. God knows there's enough of those. Something that just makes me stop and go, wait, what? This is real life? This, am I the only person who sees this? I can't be the only person who sees this. And sometimes I'll bring people on, friends, my husband, people I respect, maybe even one of those people who know something about something professionally. And we'll talk. We'll talk about life. We'll talk about what we're doing, what we're figuring out, what is working, what we're trying, all of that. Because all of that stuff, the scenarios, the observations, the conversations, the stories, they're really just different ways of doing the same thing, living this crazy roller coaster that we call life. Because truthfully, guys, there isn't a how-to manual on life. It's just happening. And we're all navigating it the best we can, surviving. Sometimes we're thriving, but either way, we're just getting through it one foot in front of the other. So this podcast is just that, me doing it out loud, seeing life, talking about life, trying things, seeing what works, what doesn't. And sometimes realizing that the small things that we try actually make a bigger difference than we could ever imagine. Just living life and seeing how it goes. Either way, I'm putting it out there and I'm hoping that you guys will get something from it. But if you don't, that's totally fine too. No expectations, no hard feelings. But if you've ever felt like you somehow missed the day that the handbook or the how to manual on life was handed out, or like everyone else seems to know what they're doing and you're just trucking along, doing your thing, trying to get by, same. So let's see how this goes. And honestly, let's see how this goes.